was a Sunday night football showdown in week 1. Two teams that had a lot of hype going into last season and just missed the mark in terms of playoffs. It was the Dallas Cowboys and Los Angeles Rams. We expected this one to be a shootout. It was not. It was a very weird game where the Rams put together a couple really nice drives, but they were long drives and ate up a ton of the clock. Steph, we'll start on the Rams side of the ball. We have to talk about that running game, that split between Cam Akers and Malcolm Brown. Malcolm Brown's one of the hot names right now. A lot of people probably picked him up on the waiver wire. What do you think is going to happen in this Rams backfield? Brown had 18 carries for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns. Akers was 14 carries for 39 yards. Darrell Henderson only 3 for 6. Brown led in receptions as well amongst that group. What are we going to expect going forward? To me, Malcolm Brown clearly looked like the better back in this game.
Seems like it's going to be a hot hand approach. Malcolm Brown was out there for 60% of snaps, Cam Akers 33%, and Darrell Henderson was starting to get worked in but was limited 7% of snaps, only 5 where he was on the field. It seems for right now, like if you have Malcolm Brown, if you picked him up right before the season started, like we were telling you to, then plug him in week 2. I know the matchup's a little bit scarier with Philadelphia on the road, but I'm still okay to put him in there because as long as he's the hot hand, Akers is still kind of getting worked in. Akers didn't look great. I'm not going to say he looked bad, but I mean, that run blocking O-line hasn't improved a ton. They're going to have to be gritty if they're going to be able to run the ball, and it looks like they still want to run the ball a ton. Like you said, 18 attempts for Malcolm Brown, 26 fantasy points in PPR. Keep plugging him in until we see otherwise. If he's out there on your waiver wire, what you shouldn't do is go out and try to spend 30, 40, 50% of your fab on him because I don't think he's going to be the guy season long. If you have Cam Akers, it's tough for me to tell you to start him against Philadelphia. I think you wait and see what you have. I think eventually he will take over, but he's a little bit of a rawer prospect. We knew that coming in with Akers. That's why I was more leaning towards the Swift side because he seemed like a more polished prospect. Akers is going to be running behind a tough O-line, just like he was in college at Florida State. So more of the same for him. If things can open up for him, if he can find a way to make plays, then he's going to take over. But for now, it looks like it's going to be Malcolm Brown. And so pick him up, plug him in right away, but don't go nuts thinking that you're going to have the Rams RB1 for the rest of the season that you're going to pick up off waivers. I would much more go with a guy like Nyheim Hines that I blow my fab on than Malcolm Brown.
Yep.
Are you with me on that?
I am. I think Hines has locked in full season value. And with Brown, I think upside is there, but I just think there's a lot more question marks right now. I think there's 3 obvious scenarios for Malcolm Brown. I think there's a world, actually I'll give it 2 scenarios for Malcolm Brown. I think there's a world where he keeps having the hot hand, he has incredible value, and he gets deep into the season as a solid guy you can plug into your running back spot each and every week. But there's another scenario that feels more likely that tells me after a couple of weeks, Cam Akers is going to continue to get more involved. Darrell Henderson's going to get healthier and get more involved.
Yep.
And it's going to be some sort of timeshare where you're not going to – maybe Malcolm Brown is startable as an RB2 or a flex, but you're not going to feel necessarily great about it like you might for these first couple of games as those other guys get worked up. So I think Brown is the goal line back.
Brown is a weekly flex option. With the volume that he was getting, it was fantastic, but he was pretty much average across all categories in terms of efficiency. He had 13 yards through the air, 4.4 yards per attempt on the ground, but he's getting volume, and like you said, he's the clear goal line back. That's what they were going with. When Henderson and Akers were getting the ball, it was not in the red zone. It was not in these goal line situations, and so for that reason, on this offense that was moving the ball pretty well, they were getting a bunch of guys involved. I know you're pretty excited about Tyler Higbee getting a 90% snap share in this game. Keep your eyes on that. Tremendous upside in just that amount of usage and availability being on the field for Tyler Higbee. But also good to see more checkdowns on the running back. We talked about how the Rams really steered away from that last year. With Malcolm Brown getting 4 targets, that's where I think him and Akers and even Henderson could see some value and some volume. So Brown for now, but we'll have to monitor this one, check in on it every single week to see what the snap shares look like, who's productive, who has that hot hand. But I think they still want to see what they have in Henderson, so not totally out on him, even though he barely played in this game.
Steph, before we move to the Dallas side of the ball, let's touch really quickly on these LA Rams pass catchers. There's only 3 we really care about for fantasy football purposes. It's Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and Tyler Higbee. Not much to say on Woods. I mean, he was exactly what we expected him to be. High-volume guy, going to be Jared Goff's number 1 target this year. 6 catches, 105 yards, added a carry for 14 yards. He picked up right where he left off. That's like copy and paste the Robert Woods that we all have in our head, and that's exactly what it was. So if you have Woods, you're very, very pleased with that performance. I think he's going to continue that
Bobby
moving forward.
Trees.
And two other guys here, Cooper Kupp, 4 catches for 40 yards on 5 targets. What is your panic meter looking like for Cooper Kupp right now on a scale of 1 to 10?
What's crazy about the Cooper Kupp situation, and my panic is
He played 85% of snaps.
exactly that's the thing. He was on the field actually more than Robert Woods by 1 snap, but it's not like when we saw the 12 personnel in 2019. Don't look at just the box score and say, oh, Cooper Kupp's irrelevant because we saw him getting used less at the end of last season on the field, far less than he would be normally. He was actually on the field a lot. Just the way this game went, I'm not out on Cooper Kupp. Don't overreact to week 1. It was just a situation where Robert Woods was the open guy.
I'll start him next week, no problem.
Exactly. Keep plugging in Kupp. Don't overreact. He didn't get the touchdown in this game. If he had, we'd all be saying, oh, Cooper Kupp's back. He's getting all the red zone receptions this year. But how you feeling about Tyler Higbee? I want to get a check-in with you on him. He had 3 receptions on 4 targets, 40 yards. Is he a guy that you're going to keep plugging in? It looks like Gerald Everett was almost irrelevant in this one.
Yeah, I'll keep plugging in Tyler Higbee, and this was a tough first game. It was frustrating because, like you said earlier, 90% snap share in this game, which is what we want for Higbee. The question is it going to be the first half Tyler Higbee where he's splitting snaps, not super utilized, or the second half where he's absolutely going on a tear on the field, super involved? And what McVay is going to do is he's going to game plan for his opponent. And in this game, it was frustrating because Higbee was on the field a ton, but he blocked a ton. And if you were watching the broadcast, the announcers kept talking about how the really scary part of this Dallas defense is the pass rush. And we saw that. Jared Goff went down a couple times in this game, took 1 sack, but was pressured a ton. And the Rams' game plan in this game was to get the ball out of Jared Goff's hands extremely quickly. And he was getting the ball out of his hands in 2.5 seconds after the snap consistently in this game to Robert Woods, even a couple to Cooper Kupp. A couple of Higbee's receptions were actually quick like that as well. So it looked like the game plan was, let's get the ball out of Goff's hands. Let's beat this pass rush by not letting them have time to get to the quarterback. And because of that, Higbee spent a lot of time blocking. He did also have a couple plays drawn up for him, which was really good to see. Moving forward, I'm not worried about him. He was on the field a ton. He made the most of his opportunities. 3 catches for 40 yards. He looked good in the open field. Jared Goff is going to use the tight end. Gerald Everett's banged up now as well. Lower volume game for Jared Goff, and he didn't have any touchdowns. So moving forward, I'm not panicking about Tyler Higbee. If we see a couple more disappointing weeks from him, I might start to get concerned. But after one game, I'm rolling him out next week with confidence. And if there's an opportunity to buy low, I might take the time to do it. I can't because I have him in every league. But if you're in a league where people are low on Higbee or he's their second tight end or something, I'd shoot him a low ball offer and see what you can do.